Loop quantum gravity theory allows us to reconstruct the history before the Big Bang. Our world has been born from a preceding universe. That contracted under its own weight into a tiny space. And expanded once again. Big Bang is not the beginning. It is a brief moment of bounce. A moment when time and space have disappeared altogether. And the world has dissolved into a swarming cloud of probability. An intermediate phase before the new architecture of cosmos is formed.
The Pongal festival is a rejoicing in the fact that there are cycles in nature. But how could such cycles come about unless the gods will them? And if there are cycles in the years of humans, might there not be cycles in the eons of the gods? The Hindu religion is the only one of the world's great faiths dedicated to the idea that the cosmos itself undergoes an immense, indeed an infinite, number of deaths and rebirths. It is the only religion in which the timescales correspond, no doubt by accident, to those of modern scientific cosmology. Its cycles run from our ordinary day and night to a day and night of Brahma, 8.64 billion years long, longer than the age of the Earth or the Sun, and about half the time since the Big Bang. And there are much longer time scales still. There is the deep and appealing notion that the universe is but the dream of the God, who, after 100 Brahma years, dissolves himself into a dreamless sleep, and the universe dissolves with him. Until, after another Brahma century, he stirs, recomposes himself, and begins again to dream the great cosmic lotus dream. Meanwhile, elsewhere, there are an infinite number of other universes, each with its own God, dreaming the cosmic dream. These great ideas are tempered by another, perhaps still greater. It is said that men may not be the dreams of the gods, but rather that the gods are the dreams of men.
Particles don't always exist. Particles exist only when they interact with something. Just looking is already an interaction. Before that, they are a fuzzy mixture of all possible properties. Any object that we see is a temporal phenomena within a system that has a myriad of variables. Reality is never stable and is nothing but interaction. A world of happenings, not of things.
One of the traditional views about the creation was that it was a sequential creation, that God did thus and so and thus and so and thus and so. Now, the implication of that is that at the beginning it needed more adjustment, basically, that more had to be done. Now, Augustine in the 5th century was thinking deeply about that because he was challenged on that very issue by his former co-religionists, the Manichaeans. And his answer was very radical in terms of his day, but it was widely accepted. And this comes as a surprise to us today, because what he had to say was that from the beginning, the possibilities of all the kinds of things that will come later, those possibilities are there from the beginning. There's not a sequence. And those kinds will appear when the conditions of water and earth are right. Now, how about that? That's pretty good. I mean, for the 5th century, it's not bad at all. He realized that as far as the science of that time was concerned, that there was no way of substantiating that. And he said, but look, we don't even understand how ordinary seeds germinate. It will require a different level of knowledge. We now can see how the possibilities of all that would come later were contained from the evolutionary standpoint within that first creation. That insight, you see, has filled out a hole in traditional theology because it makes it possible to see something that Augustine hinted at and groped for, namely that a creator of our universe would in fact place within it from the beginning, as he put it, the seeds of all that would come later. Why not make a universe within which all of this would come to be naturally? Well, that's a harder thing to do. The easier way would be to pop them in. But if you want a universe within which all of this will happen naturally, that's a tough call. That's a real challenge, and that's the kind of creator we have.
Gravitational field is not diffused through space. Gravitational field is the space itself. In that sense, space is not distinct from matter. Space is a material, an entity which undulates, curves, flexes, twists. We are immersed in it, bending the cosmic sea under our weight. We are racing through this sea, and the waves are curving the space and time.
But let me tell you how we physicists view things. For example, Einstein was asked the big question, is there a God? Is there a meaning to everything, right? And here's how Einstein answered the question. He said, there really are two kinds of gods. We have to be very scientific. We have to define what you mean by God. If God is the God of intervention, the personal God, the God of prayer, the God that parts the waters, then he had a hard time believing in that. Would God listen to all our prayers for a bicycle for Christmas? He didn't think so. However, he believed in the God of order, harmony, beauty, simplicity, and elegance, the God of Spinoza. That's the God that he believed in, because he thought the universe was so gorgeous, it didn't have to be that way. It could have been chaotic, it could have been ugly, messy, but here we have the fact that all the equations of physics can be placed on a simple sheet of paper. Einstein's equation is only 1 inch long. But we want to know, well, where did that equation come from? This is what Einstein asked. Did God have a choice? Was there any choice in building a universe? When he woke up in the morning, he would say, I'm going to create a universe. I'm going to be God today. What kind of universe would I create?
Entanglement lets the observation of one particle instantly reveal the state of a partner particle. No matter how far away it may be. It happens on macro scale as well. clusters of particles can communicate with each other with a speed faster than the speed of light. This phenomenon knits space-time into a whole, interconnecting all objects with a geometric glue.
Everything is made from the energy of the Big Bang, the creation of the universe. After the creation of the universe, nothing physical was ever created. All enters the universe 15 billion years ago as energy, light beams. And those light beams evolved over time, developed over time, became matter, Einstein's famous equation, how energy can take on the form of matter equals mc squared. But it's important, I think, in that equals mc squared equation to realize that that equation doesn't say the energy disappears and becomes matter. That's not what it says. It says the energy changes form, remains energy, but takes on form. When the brain becomes damaged, or unfortunately eventually dies, that hasn't stopped the mind from existing, because the mind is not shackled to the brain. Now, this energy, which is the mind, is not necessarily the energy that was created at the Big Bang. That energy made stuff. This energy, we're talking about something, a metaphysical concept of energy, this mind. If the brain can tap into it, and the brain does tap into it, that means that some level of a chemical, physical, probably fantastically complex system is able to tap into this mind. Because you're tapping in, you're experiencing it right now, and it's not New Age. I want to get very clear. This is not New Age. It's new physics. But they are the most ancient commentaries in maybe in other religions. I know biblical religion. Okay, their most ancient of commentaries talk about this. There's subtly in the wording of the text that tells us that there's this wisdom, mind, however you want to say it, that pervades all existence. We have a small part of it. That's what's instilled, like a spark. You have a flame, and these sparks go out. Physically, we're a small part of the big creation.